pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And just for the record, anybody that doesn't know me, I'm the new mayor. My name's Mike Putnam. And everybody knows the few past trustees, but we'll do roll call, please.
Trustee Caputo. Here. Trustee Demo. Trustee Fulmer. Here. Trustee Millis. Here. Mayor Putnam.
Here. Okay, I guess first thing we want to do is we're going to open it up for public comments. Anybody wants to bring anything up? What I ask is, you got a comment, if you can stand up and at least tell us your name. Anybody want to speak? Motion to close it? Don't need one? Okay. Correspondence, anything for that?
Did we ever receive anything on that broken sidewalk? No letter that came to us?
Nope.
Okay, minutes of the last November 14th, November 28th, in the annual meeting. Motion to accept them, or?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
And second? Bills.
Hold on. Discussion now, under the November 14th, you kind of got it written in there twice, but it was motion by trustee Fulmer, seconded by trustee Fulmer. She can't second her own motion, it was seconded by me. You did put the same exact thing down in the next one, so you could either delete one or however you want to fix it. And can we just put, since you mentioned it, about the litigation, can we just say on broken sidewalk, because I had to sit here and think for 5 minutes, what the heck was that about? Just, because the way it's written, it flows right into the, supervisor suite, and they were two totally opposite things. So just so that we know what we're talking about further on down the line. And I haven't had a chance to review the other ones because we just got them. That's my only comment.
You want to review? You want to take a minute?
No, not right now. If everybody else has read them and you're good with them, that's fine.
I wasn't here for most of them, so I just... Go say. Yeah, Rick?
Rick Thompson, Chamber of Commerce, Alexandria Bay. I missed the last meeting, and I thought that there were some questions about pirates, which I chair. So I didn't know if anybody had any questions concerning any of the pirates. So I'm just here to just inquire.
I saw on the chamber email that I got, the website, it said that you're having 2 weekends and they're going to be mirrored weekends.
Right.
But we were told last time they weren't.
Last time when?
The last meeting. You weren't having you weren't having parade both weekends, and it was different.
News by me. Who said that?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. But anyways,
they're going to be the same.
2 weekends mirrored alike, because our goal is to make sure that one weekend isn't different than the other, so that they're equal. They're felt that way from the public. We stayed away from the Monday through Thursday because it was tough to fill it, because we're trying to get it back onto its feet. But we certainly are making sure that it's fun-filled for children and families as much as possible. We did get a boat a ship looks like it's going to be for the first weekend. We're working on the second weekend. Okay. A lot of things are in pencil rather than ink, but that's kind of typical for this time of year.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I had.
Okay.
Thanks, Rick.
Mayor, on the minutes, can you say motion carried?
Motion carried, yep.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Moving on to the bills.
I'll make a motion to approve abstract number 6 as presented.
I'll second it.
Second.
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, trustee reports. Let's start with You, Sandy?
This weekend up at the pavilion, we had Swim with Santa. It was a first-time event. Doug Tullock, was there. He called me that night. Was extremely happy and impressed. Big thank you to Jarrett and your crew. They had done the beach and raked it, and everything looked great. Having those drapes, whatever, what do you call them? Drapes, curtains, whatever, drawn, really helped to block the wind, so beforehand, and he's really looking forward to next weekend with the River Santa being up there. He thinks it's gonna be a great place for the venue with the kids to keep them out of the cold and do the Santa thing up there. He was very happy to see the new mayor there, to have people from the village and, you know, past the village board jump and go in the river. I just couldn't quite muster that part myself, but very happy with the turnout and with the village support, so to all of you. It'd be a problem to keep those curtains up all winter? Is there a reason why we're taking, because as I looked at them, and to be honest, this weekend was the first weekend that I paid attention to them, that is exactly, not exactly, but it is very similar to what I have at the roadhouse that I put on the outside this time of year. And I put them there to block the wind, and what this is for, and why are we planning on taking them down?
At the time, I was under the understanding that they were made out of isinglass, which is, everybody knows back in the day, they were so much more brittle. Then I did some research on them, and they are made of a different product. That's why when Doug had asked, I did some research, and I realized that they do withstand a lot colder temperatures than the isinglass had done in the future, past. So I don't have a problem if we can keep them buckled down and the wind doesn't get the best of them. I think is my biggest worry is keeping them buckled down, but they seem to hold up well.
I mean, have you had experience with them? I mean, to me, it just, that's what they're there for, and then we're gonna take them down in the winter. I know a lot of people don't go to the park and stuff in the winter time, but when people are new to the area and just wandering around, that is a popular place, and after I looked at it, I thought, I didn't know what isinglass was. I thought there was glass, and I looked at them and I'm like, why aren't we leaving these up? If we can, I think that would be great.
What do you think, Jared?
I was impressed in how they held up. I really was. I thought that with the wind that we'd had, they've held up very well. And we can keep an eye on them.
I was gonna say, the key is making sure that they are staying buckled.
Yes.
You know, check them 2-3 times a week, and
I would like to try it.
Save a lot of work.
Did you say that they will take the cold?
So they are no longer made out of isinglass. The isinglass is a thing of the past. Made out of some sort of better material that is more pliable. The drop temperature on them is so much better than what isinglass I've made.
I just compare them to the ones that I see in all the boats that I have pulled up all the time.
Right, and that's why I was under the understanding that we couldn't leave them off, but different product.
Probably better for them not to be cold.
Right.
Okay, anything else?
that's all I have.
We're gonna pass on Cindy's and we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
So, Judy?
I don't have much either. A lot of mine is gonna be done by Gregor in a little bit. The only thing I wanted to discuss with the board, we have, a woman named Alice Beebe who works with ARC. And she had come in here with 2 young ladies, and what they do is they train people that need help with different jobs, and they wanted to know if we would be interested in having them come in and clean the village office, the hallway, the bathroom, and the police department. I don't have a problem with it. They would be with them. They would train them. You know, we could try it and see how it works. It would be, they'd come in here twice a week. They'd split it up, the office and the outside, and then the police department. If you want to do it, we could see how it works. They're excited about having another place to bring these people to train them for jobs.
Do you get a discount because you're in training?
It's
It's free.
Oh, it's free?
It's all.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
no, there's
wow,
no
that's
charge.
probably nothing.
That's a good discount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all, it's a life skill training for, the ARC people, so.
Yeah,
Why not try it?
okay, well then they'll probably start the week after.
Do we wanna make a motion and put it into
Do
the
you need
files?
You need a
They
motion?
do have liability, I did ask the question, they have their own liability.
Just my next question.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to bring ARC in for cleaning the office, the hall area, and the police department.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Aye. Motion carried.
And that's all I have for right
Yep.
now.
Okay. Greg?
Okay, I'm gonna go off Jared. I don't know if you do a DPW report and a trustee report, but it's all in one. He gave it to me, so he can read it right after I do if he wants to.
Want to do the one and put it
No, you
together?
can do it. You can-
Okay?
Okay.
Christmas decorations, they look good downtown. All the honor banners have been removed from the telephone poles. They took 2 loads of slightly used mattresses. If anybody needs one, you can come down and get them for free if you need one.
Mhm.
But we have to pay to take them to the county now, so they hauled them. Leaf pickup, reminder, it's all gotta be in bags now. Anybody puts leaves out, put them in bags, so they're not gonna bring anything back out.
Is that noted to people? Do people
I
know
think we
that?
should stick something in the paper
Should be in
maybe.
the paper.
Do
Or if
you
we
have a cutoff date? Do you wanna do?
We don't cut off date,
Okay.
but
It would be nice to get it pushed to that way, 'cause I know it's gonna go up to 45 this weekend, everybody should probably write them out, but
right.
Okay,
maybe
yeah,
if we
I'll
get-
put in.
put a
yeah.
date or something.
Yep.
Okay. Set up, for Santa, they went down right to York, with the York Creek down to the beach, and got that ready for the swimming with Santa. The curtains have been closed and they seem to be faring well, so the curtains you talked about are doing good. Cleaning the brush behind the Highland Cemetery, if anybody hasn't been up there, the problem up there is there's a water line that runs behind the Highland Cemetery that they need to maintain, so they're doing the far end towards the gun club. If you go up there, there's been brush cleaned off that end of it. So if anybody asks you what they're doing up there, that's what you're doing, because they're trying to find the line that goes to the old,
Gun club.
gun club.
Okay.
Good line, gun club, okay? I talked to Jarrett, and he's working on some of the signs that are all faded out, and the graffiti, and my favorite stickers on the stop signs are coming off, I hope, when they get a chance, 'cause they just get worse. Everybody just sticks more on, they look terrible. So they've been coming off, they're doing good there. Removal of the benches and trash cans have happened. New zone valves in the police department, it's to send the heat over to the police department, they've all been put in. 2 water shutoffs replaced on, Greens Creek Road, which is down across from the playground. They had a couple water shutoffs they had to do down there for Camerons,
Yes.
Scotty Camerons. AJ Morja, up on Northern Avenue, he's got 2 new water shutoffs and a new. And that's about all. I've had a couple of nice meetings with Jarrett since I got on, and they'll probably keep continuing pretty heavy, but we're doing good. Things are going good.
The only thing, Greg, that I forgot to add, I was in contact with Ryman's Design Center. They are, approximately 5 to 6 weeks out. The price that they had given us still holds.
Okay.
And, they're looking at 5 days to do the project.
Okay.
So.
Is that blocks or not? Was it
It
blocks?
is not, it is.
It's roll out.
It is roll.
Okay, 'cause what we talked about it, and then I talked to Jarrett the next day, and he thought that it was gonna be the pushed together blocks, and we could just move some of the furniture one way, put the blocks down and that, so I had him get a hold of, make sure everything was still the same price, and get a date set up so we can get that done.
Where are you gonna put everything?
I don't know.
I think it's gonna be too.
So you have to set them up in Lee's office.
Please.
And there'll be 2 pieces, so you're gonna be able to shove stuff to one side and put one down and shove it
Functions in
back.
here after the first of the year, so someone's gonna have to go into here.
This room will have to be closed for a week to any events.
Which is good, everything will be
Yeah.
done and beyond
Keep it in
that.
here, keep it locked, keep people out.
It'd be a lot better in the office.
Okay, thanks, Greg.
Yes.
Susan Browning, about the leaf, in a bag now?
We like to, 'cause we put the leafer away, because when they get wet and they get ice in them, we can't pick them up with the leafer anyway. And if you run around with the loader and the ground's not froze, we're ripping curbs and
So
sidewalks
that's
and
only,
people's lawns.
only for this time?
Just this time of year, so you don't wreck everything. Cause we get in more trouble wrecking curbs and ripping curbs out than. Makes it easier.
Okay, I guess I'm up. I talked with Josh, David about the police department. There's a lot of comments about not having any coverage on Fridays and Saturdays, and we're trying to figure out something on these busy weekends that just all his officers actually work for other departments, city police, park police, and they're shorthanded and they're all working double shifts. But we're gonna try to work something out so we have some more coverage on them busy weekends, especially at night from like 7 to 3 in the morning. You know, and I talked to him about, he wrote a few tickets, a few complaints, but nothing too serious this week. And, so that kind of takes care of the police department. And the other thing is, Brent, I've been talking to Brent, you know, back and forth. I have a major issue with that boat ramp on Holland Street. The quality of the work and what's going on. And Brent and I have been working on it, and it's a problem between the engineer, in my opinion, did a poor job. And the contractor did so-so work. But we're working on trying to get that rectified. And I'll leave it at that. Okay.
I mean, Mike brought a couple good points up from an engineering standpoint that were not in the plan, a retainer wall, stuff like that. And with any type of inspection before doing the plan, you know, you should be able to see that.
Right. There should have been one.
There's a couple other things, so I think that we're gonna talk a little more, we might wanna talk about sending them a letter. If we're not happy.
Strongly worded letter.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're good on the trustee reports?
I just have a question. That letter would be from the town or the town and the
I
village?
think the town and the village should be in on it, but, you know, I tried to make sure that we're
Yeah.
doing this together. Everybody approve of each other's right.
It just, it happened. We just gotta correct it.
Right.
Should know, but it did. Okay. Mr. Kimball, you got anything you'd like to?
Your last board meeting, you approved the new zoning, code. It's been sent to the state. It's not effective until the Department of State has signed it. And I'm assuming it's been 2 weeks, it's probably back, or Jim would get notification of it, if it has been, with it. When we're working on the zoning, we stopped talking about short-term rentals to get the zoning code finished. And so this Wednesday, we're going to start again on it at 4 o'clock here in the community room. Public is welcome. There's a lot of controversy which way to go and how to do it and stuff. So we'll be back, you know, trying to come up with a workable solution for everyone. New York State requires the planning board members and the zoning board members to get 4 hours of training every year. And I think maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the village board passed a resolution for it, and then we got into COVID. Back when Mark Debo was the town attorney, we had a workshop here for the river communities, for the various boards to come and get their training. And I've talked to Mike Dorsey at County Training about trying to do something again here, possibly along the river communities, the various boards. Mike kind of thought it might be better if some of the codes are somewhat similar, the topics, the hot issues could be the same. So rather maybe having Clayton, Orleans, the Bay, the Village, Hammond, that he suggested maybe just Orleans and the Village here, seeing I'm zoning officer in both of those jurisdictions. With that, we probably try to do it in March, hopefully get past the bad weather with it. Before there was a fee that was charged to each applicant, which is refundable undoubtedly from your municipality, but that would go towards providing lunch. And they could get their 4 hours credit, and then they wouldn't have to worry about it. We seem to have more problem, I think, going out to JCC, even though you can get your mileage back and stuff. County planning does offer a couple sessions in the spring and in the fall with it for your credits. And You can go online and get training, but that doesn't seem to get people enticed to do it. So we're gonna try to do a kind of a regional workshop for credit training in March, and as we get closer to a date, I asked Mike to talk about it with their staff and what topics would, you know, they would present and stuff that day. We've had an ongoing issue down on 24 Bethune Street, getting the floating docks permitted through DEC, Army Corps, and OGS. I talked to the engineer. They're waiting on, I believe, DEC. I know I was asked once to look at the application if I found anything I didn't think was what they were asking for. I made a response back. There's 5 or 6 items, and the engineer did change my comments to it. Some of it, how far out into the bay that these floaters were and stuff. Once it's approved, they still have to go before the planning board, because the dock is an accessory structure to the principal use. So it still has to go before the village planning board yet. So even though they're approved by OGS, DEC, Army Corps, we still have the local input on final approval with it. It's up to the local board if, you know, how they want to tackle it too. So hopefully, you know, that's coming up sooner rather than later. It's been a later deal more than anything. But that's all I have, unless there's some questions.
Any questions for Mr. Schimmel? Thank you. Okay, old business. Number 1, agreement with the Alex Bay Fire Department. The village bonded to put the building out there for them, and they agreed to pay so much a year. I think it was 65 or something thousand a year. We don't have that in writing, that they're gonna make that payment, and I would like it in writing and signed by the fire chief, the president, whoever has to.
Okay. Who should I coordinate with to get the background on the terms and conditions?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Office, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's in the minutes and stuff of the
Okay.
meeting, my understanding
Yeah.
is, but I want a little bit more formal.
So then perhaps a draft document that I send to the board, you'd review it and see, and once you're comfortable with it, then we could present it.
Well, we're looking for something like if the payment's due on
Yeah.
January 3rd, we want it 30 days ahead of time,
Okay.
okay? That's
Okay.
something along with that.
And it's gonna go off the payment schedule that we received back from the bond, which,
Okay.
We just gave him a copy of this right here.
Okay.
That's for the building.
so that should be an attachment to it.
Okay?
Okay.
Riverfest, there was a request for Riverfest he wants it on a different weekend.
He's here, Mayor. He's here to speak with you.
Are you here for that?
I'm here.
Okay, you want to speak?
I will.
Okay, go ahead.
And recently how we came to the date, because I know it's all like kind of an off date for everybody. So, I'm on the AUSA board, and I'm taking Pete Whitmore's place, putting this, event together, which has been a good partnership between NWR, AUSA, and the village. Request for the dates, and as you may well know, it's normally accompanied with Mountain Fest. That happens a couple weeks after.
Right.
Okay, so everything's based on those 2 events. So the original request was on the 6th and 12th of June. Okay, it came to my understanding that MWR had, because of personnel strength, other event requirements, and time constraints, they couldn't do it in a 1-week turnaround. So they requested from the command to move Mountain Fest to the 20th. That came back later approved. Then Bo Castle had told us they couldn't have it on the 6th because they already had a prior wedding plan that they scheduled on the books. And I talked to them about maybe commingling the 2 events, and that was impossible because the wedding is late morning, 11:30 or so, so it would just be a fiasco trying to run Riverfest, the people past the wedding, the whole bit. So they couldn't do it then. So, they gave us the 13th and 20th. So, I came back and asked them about the 7th. So we ran that up to the command, okay? and the command came back and said the 7th would be a go. So we talked to Bolt Castle again, and I know it's early in the season, they need their help coming out of school, college, whatever the deal may be, it's still school season, but they can make it happen. So I talked to Uncle Sam's, and of course, they could make it go, okay? I didn't contact back with MWR yet at the time I said go, because I then I called the village first, I talked to Molly when she came back, and then I sent the request up through the channels Thursday.
Okay. I was just wondering what day that was, okay.
Okay, normally it's on Thursday, the senators will off as long as they purchase a ticket to attend the event, and then they would have Friday. The command wants everything done before block. For Fort Drum this year is 24 June to 7 July. So now you see how the dates are being squanched in there, okay? So when they came back and said the 7th, the only question was, would we have the same type of support from the soldiers, whatever like that? I believe yes, because if anybody knows soldiers, I'm pretty sure all of you do, a soldier will pay $5 to get a day off. It's been with their family the whole bit. Because getting a day off, you know, the whole bit, whatever, they're never here doing training, they're deployed, so forth and so on, maintaining whatever. So we're going to get that. I did push back and say that please have the general put out early that yes, they will have that day, okay? Because and that way it'll build the numbers up faster, because that way it keeps the village engaged in what's going on, Uncle Sam's and Bolt Castle. That's where we came to the 7th. My response to them was I had to bring it to the village, because we don't know what events you have planned. I know last time I was here, you were planning Christmas in July, stuff like that, so things happen.
Right.
Can you handle Riverfest that early in the month? Number one.
There's nothing else that weekend in the Bay? We handled it before.
Okay.
But, you know, and then my second one, I got an answer, because I just swing by the pavilion to see if there's any construction going on, because last year there was construction, and I was able to talk with you, and then talk with the engineer head down there, and they got the stuff moved, but there's nothing going on.
It's all done.
Right. In response to the curtains hanging, I saw them hanging, and I thought that was the greatest thing to slice cheese, because 2 years ago we had to drop them and close them. We had the wind and the rain, and it blocked everything, whatever. So that's one of the best ideas you ever came up with right there, for inclement weather. Speaking as an outsider. 'Cause I've been wet up there. I've been on microburst in there, so I know how you can get down here.
Do you need a motion? Do you need a motion
Yes.
for that?
We would need a motion to approve it that date.
Now, the only thing I would do from here is we had the AUSA board meeting the 20th, and I just have to run it through them. I'm pretty sure, I talked to the planning committee, I'm on the planning committee, and they're in agreement. But of course, we have to have all boards agree, the whole, because we're all, partners in this.
You need anything in writing from us that it's fine with us, or just
Oh,
a
no.
verbal is fine?
Just a motion.
Nope.
Okay.
That's why I'm sitting here, and I'll carry it back, I'll sit through the board meeting, and I will contact MWR, and then I will send a, complimentary go back to the village board.
Okay.
Everybody's in agreement.
All right. Do we get,
One other question I do have though on
Sure.
that, I know security, Jared, we had that partially two things. We had that problem with security at Fort Drum, the safety division. Can we get all the concrete blocks up there, as well as the ones cut down here?
Absolutely.
I know that's gonna be the next thing they're gonna beat us up on. Because we had a little squabble last year with that, but we got it fixed.
okay.
The second thing was, if I could, before I leave here today, could I get the point of contact and phone number for the drive-in owner or manager or whatever? Because I guess they were kind of caught by surprise last year with the parking that normally happens there, and they weren't informed or didn't get it. I'm not sure what happened, but we had gotten a phone call, hey, what's going on? So I want to make sure that I do contact the drive-ins, and I know any pushback, they can get with the board on that.
Could I email that over in the morning too?
You sure could.
Okay.
And And then, of course, when I send my confirmations back here, I'll let you know, I've talked to all the parties, list them the whole bit, so you know that everybody's in agreement.
Okay, sounds good. We,
That's all I have.
I'll
Need a
make the
motion?
motion. Yeah, I'll make the motion that we allow, AUSA to do their Riverfest on June 7th.
Get a second on that?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The streetscape. Oh, is that you, Gregor?
Yeah, not the, actually not the streetscape, the, ready projects.
Okay.
So just an update on the ready projects, you should have the final payment application for DC Builders. They've completed the punch list, all of the punch list items, and have submitted all of their closeout documents, which I'll give the village a copy of all the documents. The release of liens, it includes the warranty for the docks, and all the paperwork that's required on closeout.
I don't think we have any of that. Do you, Molly?
Didn't you, the meeting before, didn't they approve that payment?
We did it last.
I think it was,
Yeah.
the electricians, I think
Okay.
that was their final one. DC still had some punch list items.
Do you have it with you?
Did you receive the email or not? Okay.
How much is it?
It is a total, let's see, final application is $48,022.55.
I think I paid that. Did I pay that last?
So the last one was, should have been S&L's final payment app.
Yeah, I know, last month we did S&L,
I
but
thought I had both.
something was,
Maybe, but it could be wrong. Didn't notice it to be that. Yeah, if we can, as long as the board approves it, I can put it out through, that's up to the board.
So here's all of the closing. You want to hang on to that?
So that bill has not been paid.
This bill has not been paid. So the only item that's remaining is the lift. They're gonna do that starting up in the spring. We talked about it, I think we talked at the last board meeting. The glass is gonna be replaced in the spring. There's no sense to do it this time of year.
No.
And they'll,
What is
so
that
that's part
glass?
of warranty.
What's that glass made out of? Is it something that's resistant to the
I think it's
cold and all?
similar to like a windshield. It's, tempered. I don't know, if you go down there, it looks like a rock or something was thrown at it. I think Jared, you thought it was a pellet.
rock,
Pretty big one.
yeah.
It was,
Looks like a BB gun to me.
It sounds like a foolish question, but could you get one of the, if it's glass like that, like a windshield company that can fix them?
I think we checked on that. I'll check again, Mike, to see if that's possible. I think they said to carry through the warranty and everything, they wanted the glass.
Glass replaced?
Yeah.
Okay, understandable. I guess if we have the punch list and it's done, if everything's completed,
Yeah, unless you're aware of anything
not
they
to
need
be
to
paid, does
wrap
anybody
up.
see any reason?
Question for Gregory,
Sure.
and maybe Jeff, the warranty on the docks, the floaters are warranted.
Yes.
Isn't there a floater that's coming apart? Yes.
Yes, there's a floor that's coming apart.
Okay.
It's not, but it's not here, it's the towns, isn't it?
yes,
Or I don't mean to say the towns.
The one near New Holland Street, the floats,
Yes.
the floats are coming out
yes.
Which one?
The one down on Holland Street.
where the ramp is.
Where, what side?
It's right off the ramp, the one that hangs off the ramp.
I think it's an extra float when the water comes up to hold the ramp in place.
So that's
They're
under
pulled right out of
street.
the bolts, the floaters are hanging.
Would that be under street?
So there's a manufacturing warranty, and you'll see it in their, similar dock systems, so I would think
I
it
think they're the same
fall under
company,
that.
isn't it?
Maddie,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, same company.
So it's a 5-year, there's 5.
Okay, I'm confused. Which docks? At Holland Street, so it's not ready?
No.
Okay.
Gregor, the only, question I have is, have they gone down and relieved, those tracks down by the
I'll
light
check, I
poles?
know they did seal it. They did seal it on those,
What's the difference?
Two different funding organizations. Ready was what the federal government did after the flooding. Streetscape is a separate, grant that,
Was it part of the docks and everything, the funds that came from?
no, two separate companies.
Well, I don't, it's not up to date on that, what are you?
Yeah,
Okay.
two separate
Streetscapes is the one they did with the town.
We did it with the town,
Gotcha.
town's lead. Who was that through, Brent? Who was,
Streetscape.
who was the grant from? For
Department of
Streetscape?
State,
I don't remember where it came.
was it Department of State, maybe?
Department of State.
Okay.
DOS.
So, two separate funding organizations.
Okay.
So they did the two ramps, the one by Garlock's on Washington Street and the one at Holland Street. They did those two ramps and they did the docks right there at the,
At the ramp.
so those two, it was just those two, right?
Yes.
That was the Streetscapes project
So the,
that we did.
the floats underneath the dock on Holland Street are Streetscape then?
Yeah.
Responsibility. Okay.
Yeah.
Who put those in?
And it's the same manufacturer with, I gotta believe, the same warranty
Yeah, it should.
for both. That's
Okay.
why I was asking, because you guys just told me about that float. I haven't seen that float coming out yet. So
Well, I think what
I
it
didn't
is,
go low.
there was a aluminum brace welded to the bottom of the floats were attached to it, and it looks like it broke off
Yeah.
to me.
Does that have anything to do, you know how they talked about,
The chains
the
that,
chains, chains
So
that
this is
needed to
strict-
be loosened and tightened as water went up and down? Is that because, did
no,
that happen
this is
because of
strictly
that?
on the ramp itself. So when the water comes up, that end of the ramp actually still has flotation. And what it has is the only ones that are connected are the ones in the very middle. So each flow on both sides are hanging like this. They pulled out of the fastener is what they have.
Because the water's so low, the ramp's so steep, I think it couldn't handle it, and it just snapped it. It wasn't either fastened well or welded, so it's not a major thing, but part of,
Yeah,
part of the
definitely
warranty.
That's a
wanna
common thing.
use your warranty.
Make that ramp on, watch it go down with the water.
Yeah.
Put more float on it.
Yeah.
Like that.
So we need a motion to, are you good with that?
Yeah, I'm good with this. I'll make a motion to approve payment application for DC building systems for $48,022.55.
Do I have a second on that?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried.
Now, will we get another bill in the spring when they replace the glass, or is that?
No, it's gonna be
this
done
is
under warranty.
it? Okay.
So you wanna inform on the streetscape, are we good on that then?
Yes, streetscape will be, unless Brent has anything else to say.
Got anything on the streetscape, Brent?
No,
On the streetscape?
Yeah.
You got anything you wanna say about it?
No. Any idea about payment? Have you guys discussed that, or where we stand on that? Or-
Payment back to the town. Payment back to the town, you mean, the balance.
Thank you.
I don't have an issue with it because the work on the ramp really was not, it's not the town's fault, it was
Yep.
and holding the money on the town does not solve the problem.
No, it sure doesn't.
It's just not getting inspected and, you know, that's another thing we need to talk to Mr. Burrows about, sending a letter to the engineer over you know, which we can talk to you about. Well, I guess.
Okay, so what happens if we pay the town and then it doesn't get dealt with because it's not fair to end up having village taxpayer dollars to fix it? So how do we cover ourselves with that?
Well, in my opinion, it's not the town's fault. I mean, they were just helping us pay for this as it went along.
Well, I understand, but the town's lead agency, we didn't hire, you know, Fiaco or the engineers, so afterwards, what is then our recourse if the town is, I mean, I understand that all of the vendors are paid in full, but if we paid the town with $111,000 and change, and then nothing happens, then what?
You're asking me that question?
Yeah, because
Yes,
the town
only
is,
thing only thing I'll say is that Mike and I have talked about this and a few others, and I think that's why I said we might want to start taking some action. We've had to do that in some other cases. We just did, as a matter of fact, and it worked.
Didn't you receive a letter from Fiaco saying he would make right on that?
I'm talking to him every other day for the last 4 or 5 days.
Well, we do have something in writing.
But I'm not seeing the action because he's supposed to be coming down.
What I want done, and what he wants done, it's not in the same.
Yeah,
I mean, in my opinion, the whole thing should be redone.
Well, that's gonna be another problem, because if you know, Fiasco will, or somebody will agree to fix the problem as it is, but if there's any changes to the design, that's something the village is gonna have to eat, correct?
And the town,
And the town.
because it's a
I mean, there's no
50/50
question there
venture.
needs to be changes to the design, I believe, right?
Right.
And, you know, the big question with that is who, how, and how much, and who's paying for it.
Right.
We don't have answers to any of that.
I mean, I'm a little
But
concerned
we
about,
have to, I think we have to pursue it, and if we have to take the legal means, then we have to. You know?
I honestly would like to participate in a little bit more discussion before we vote on whether or not to pay the town in full, because then we're here with nothing, and no guarantee that anything's gonna be done.
Greg?
I mean, we talked about this back in, I think, early August, and, you know, Mr. Fiacco hasn't been around to do anything, still hasn't. You know, the water's pretty low. I don't know if it's gonna get any lower than it is, and he has been saying that he had to wait for the water to get lower. And how much is it? 111,000 and change?
Right.
You know, I'm very leery of paying it, because then if it doesn't get dealt with,
I mean, we've been trying to work together on this thing, that's the whole
I understand.
object. And one of the things that we've decided that we're not gonna do, that we sent you the information, is the money that we're out, we're eligible for interest on that money because we paid the bills. This has been going on for how long? I think we've been paying bills for almost a year and a half, 2 years.
right, and the object in the
That
very
we've been paying bills, the original agreement, this was supposed to be a year project, now we're into a 3-year project.
right, but that's not the village's fault,
No,
and
it's
in the
not.
very beginning,
But it's,
it was
I don't
also,
think there's a reason, I think they should expect a reason of holding the money back on the town.
well, in the very beginning, if you think back to it, the premise was that the village would pay the town when the job was completely done. Am I mean,
Totally right, and it was expected to be completely done when?
I understand, but
That's my point.
Who bid the job, the village or the town?
the town.
Town.
Town,
Was the lead agency, so the town really kinda did everything and is responsible for everything, right?
I have to look at the contract, I'm not comfortable
Yeah.
giving legal opinions in public right now.
True. Yeah.
okay, understand. Can we table this and have a discussion on it,
Can we what?
the whole planet? Would you accept that, Brent, just table it and have a discussion about how we're gonna handle this? I think we need to talk to Mr. Fiacco
Yes.
and the engineer, and then decide,
Yeah, I would just like
What we wanna do.
conversation.
okay, is that sound reasonable to you?
Yeah, definitely does.
I'm around.
Make
Okay.
a motion to table.
I'll make a motion to table the discussion on streetscape payment to the town.
Second on it?
You got me out of blank on this one, because I haven't heard anything about anything on this whole deal, so.
Okay.
Well,
I'm not
that's why
making no motion.
Well, we need a second to table it, so we can have
There's your
discussion.
second down there.
Who? I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye. Are we an aye or a no?
I'm not doing nothing with it till I find out something about it.
Abstain.
I know nothing about
You're
it.
abstaining?
I'm standing, please.
Yeah, this is one I think we all need discussion on.
You abstaining?
No, I seconded it, I don't agree, but I understand that, you know, Greg has no clue what's going on in this thing, because it's been years. And I understand Judy's side. I understand the town side. I do think they should be paid. And I said this back in August, because I voted to pay them back in August and said no. We've been working together, and yes. So I'm gonna use this analogy, Judy. We have a lift that's got a hole in it, needs to be worked on underneath the thing, but we voted to pay that in full tonight. Why is the docs or the things any different?
Because it's $111,000 and change
That we have to pay no matter what.
I understand that, but the job is not done. I would like, you can't vote tonight anyway. Greg doesn't know anything about it, which isn't his fault. You know, if we're voting on finances, you have to abstain. So we need to be a little bit more here with conversation.
I'm gonna vote against it, because I think they should be paid too.
And I have to abstain from voting on that.
I think we discussed in meetings in August, after we got a letter, that it was a conflict for you to vote on anything financial that had to do with the town and the village. Did we not? There was a letter.
I know, it was an opinion from you, but I will challenge that, because their opinion, if it was a conflict of interest for me to sit on this board and be the town clerk, I wouldn't be able to be here. And there's all kinds of legal opinions that it's okay for me to be in this position. And I don't deal with the finances at the town. I have no voting anything at the town for this to be a conflict of
No,
interest.
and I mean, no, so it's gonna catch me a bit flat-footed. I mean, I've not done extensive research on it, but you know, quick background. So far as I know, there is no statutory rule that prohibits you from serving as a village trustee and a town clerk.
There absolutely is none. We've looked into it.
Those are two official positions, and you can absolutely hold both of those positions. One's a town, one's a village. Under the general municipal law, there are different rules as far as conflicts of interest. And I think one of the key concerns is, even though you can absolutely hold both those positions, there will be instances where the overlap would prevent you from participating in the discussion and voting on it. And whenever there's a contract between the village and the town, typically that's going to be an unavoidable conflict that you really ought not to participate in. From the village's standpoint, I don't know whether the town would rule on that, but technically that would be a conflict that you ought to protect yourself. And that's what the conflict is about, to be honest with you, is protecting you from somebody making an inappropriate claim. The conflict would normally, and if we've got obviously one trustee who's absent, that would mean that anyway we'd need 3 votes to do something one way or another. If we've got one trustee who's abstaining because he's not familiar with the specifics with it, 3 left, and if you ought not to participate, then you can't do anything one way or another.
Okay.
And, yeah, unfortunately today, you're kind of stuck with it.
So this is what we're gonna do.
But I want to make sure everybody understands too. I don't want to overstep my bounds. I'm only the lawyer, which means I'm an agent for you as a principal.
Right.
You're my boss. So I give an opinion, and I do encourage you to accept it, but you're not required to. But I want to make sure we understand. I don't want you to think that I've got greater authority than I do. I'm just a lawyer is all.
I understand.
And
So
for tonight, I agree that until we get everybody brought up to date, I'll abstain or say no or whatever I need to say. But I totally disagree that I shouldn't be voting. I think when the time comes and I need to vote, I didn't enter into this contract initially. It's just a vote on payment.
Correct.
And we, as a board, have to make that decision of when is it appropriate to pay. Because there is a contract that even though me, you, and you were not here when that contract was made, it still has to be paid. Just like the high wages that we're going to be paying the forthcoming years, we weren't here a part of that, but we're stuck paying it.
Right.
So it has to be dealt with even though we weren't here and a part of it. It has to be dealt with, and when, you know, we're all on board.
So I agree with you, and just as Mike just told me, Mike just brought me up to speed a little bit on it, because I knew nothing, I'm blind in the whole situation. Well, he's been down, he's investigated the whole thing, which you agreed to.
Brett
Which
and I talked
I
about.
would trust both of them, very much. It's not their fault, it's not our fault, it's somebody's fault. But do we hold the town of Alexandria accountable,
I
money-wise?
don't know, I just need to be
we
comfortable,
hold
if we pay them in full, what recourse we have that doesn't end up costing the village a fortune.
Okay.
When, you know, we had no, the agreement up front was, they'd be paid when it was done, it'd be approved, the whole 9 yards. There's all kinds of problems, you know, we met in August, and there's problems, I'm just not comfortable voting.
Did the engineer approve it as being done?
Yes,
Which engineer?
I think it was Charles.
Charlie Pryor? When we were there in August, standing right near the water, he looked at it and said, yes, it is wrong. I have photos. Yes, it is wrong. And he talked about the contract, took a piece, like pretended he took a piece of paper and said, well, we can tear this all up and throw this all away because it's not right. And then he said out loud, because I wrote it all down, oh, I'm going to get in trouble for this when I go back to the office. I have a real problem with paying for this.
So I have everything that Charles Pryor sent to me in writing. I have nothing I wrote nothing down of what he said.
He said
I
that.
only
Okay.
have what was in writing. And
I get
I
it.
believe that that's gonna be what counts.
I understand, but
I'm
that's,
just looking
you
at
know,
it
when
from
he stood there with, you know, you, me, Gene Kring, and the other, he said it's wrong.
But he approved it. That it was completed.
If he approved it, then
Did he
there's
put it in
another
writing that it was
problem.
approved and okay?
Well, then you got another problem, because obviously it's not right.
Obviously, it's not right, but like, we don't have anything in writing from the engineer. It's gonna make it tough to go back after it.
It's gonna be real tough to go after him.
But
Well, again, I'll be certainly pleased to take a look at the documents to see where we are, but I mean, there's a reason why pencils have erasers, people make mistakes. And this outside engineer, it sounds to me as though he made an error. And if he made an error, there's ways to deal with it. I mean, simply because a payment was to be approved doesn't mean everything is right. Defects surface afterward, and apparently there's deficiency or defect that surfaced afterward, so there's got to be a mechanism for getting it remedied. And the good news here is obviously it sounds like the town and the village are working together to try to figure that out, but I'll certainly be willing to find out the details and see if I can help.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to know what recourse we have. If, you know, if we pay in full, then what?
All right. Brett, can we table this for this? And we'll discuss it, and we'll see if we get a letter to the engineer
I've been waiting quite a while.
and see what, I mean, and see what Buddy's gonna hold up on his, the problem is, what I see as a problem, isn't in the drawings.
Is what?
Isn't on the drawings. It wasn't. So if he comes back and fixes what's there, he really did it the way the engineer designed it. In my opinion, there's an engineering flaw.
And if at the end
And I'm not an
of the day-
engineer, but I, you know,
If at the end of the day, if you find that there's a concern with the way it was designed, then a change would be, we typically see a change order, and that would be a different cost to be addressed,
right,
you know,
understand.
between municipalities and whoever comes in. That's different than repairing what's there. Changing what's there is a different ballgame altogether.
The issue I have with it is, if he comes in and puts the concrete pads where they're supposed to be, what really should be to correct the problem in the first place needs to be done first. There should be a retaining wall put in there. The stone is washing out from underneath the pads, and there's no retaining wall to hold that stone in there. If he comes back, pins the pads, puts them back where they should be, he's really completed his contract. So, it's a whole two-part thing to make it right, which would be a change order or...
Well, I don't know, it would be even a change order, because there's no extra money to pay for anything new, is there? You know, if it has to be,
Well, I'm thinking the engineer, because he made a mistake, should be responsible for it.
okay, that's another.
That's what they carry insurance for.
Okay.
Brent, is there a contingency with that? Is there contingency money?
No.
None, okay.
Well, actually, with the contingency money in the, but, I mean, there's no, contingency money left, was why I answered you
Okay.
so quickly with no. But I think there was a contingency money in the budget. Usually it is required to be.
Yeah.
I'm not-
But changes, yeah, do that, okay.
But we need to get the engineer buddy there and figure out, and then we can resolve this, correct? Do we still need a motion to table it then? We ain't got enough to vote on it.
We did.
We did.
We
Okay.
did.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Table it? Aye, okay. Are we good, Brent?
Yes,
Okay.
yep,
All right,
thank you.
Mr. Supervisor. Okay. Payment for the addition out here that they've been working on, contact. It's $38,310. They put an application for payment, is the application? So, I guess we need a motion to pay that.
You have that application?
It's in with the bills today.
So then what we.
Yeah, but
all that-
it's just, because generally we have to sign it, so we approve the pay app, so it's
Okay.
for signatures.
And that kind of ties in with the first one here, about getting a signed agreement from them. That they were gonna guarantee payment of that bond back,
Right.
because it's the contractor and there's a long ways to go, I don't have a. So we need to get that agreement signed before any more payments are made to them. Does that sound reasonable?
I'm good with that.
Does that
I'll
sound
make a-
reasonable? Sounds good. Okay. So we get a motion to make that payment?
I'll make the motion to pay up one.
I'll second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I just have a question. So who's overseeing that project?
Mark Reynolds, as far as I know.
So, and Mark was okay and
Mark was
is
fine
where
with
this
it.
is.
Mark would be here.
He would be
today.
here to, he was gonna do a report, but he's sick today.
Yeah.
But he
Oh,
said,
we're
he was
happy.
fine with it.
Yes,
My
we're
understanding.
happy.
Okay, that's,
Don't.
usually we have, one of the engineers.
Well, one of the
come in and
issues that I see in the village myself is there's never, except for Bernier Carr that has an inspector full time, but these other contracts are getting done and there's nobody to oversee them.
Mhm.
So, and we wouldn't have that issue down there. Right?
Yeah.
So, okay. And the fire department repairs was the ladder truck. That, there was only a rough estimate, there's no bill on it, so I don't think anything should be done with that right now. It should be put on hold until we get a bill from the fire department on it, an exact amount. I've not given them a
You can see, you don't go.
blank check, I guess is what you call it. There's a rough estimate of what it was to finish it.
But, well, I'm just wondering if they're not going to finish it,
Until they get their money.
yeah.
But we don't have an estimate.
We've gotten from, it's went from $3,000 to $12,000.
We do not have a written estimate at this point, so how can we?
Okay, yeah, so how can you pay
We,
it?
You
we
can't
do
pay.
not.
No, that doesn't make sense.
Yes, we've had, I have had two amounts and it's doubled, so until we actually, and I tried to call today, didn't get any answer from David, so.
So we're gonna just,
I'll make a motion to table the fire department repairs item.
second on it?
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, new business. We're done with that. Davy Roberts wrote a letter to the village about his water, and I'll read the letter. I'd like to shut off the water meter account 400260001 located at 20 James Street, Alexandria Bay. This water meter has not been in use for the past years. I would appreciate consideration to have some of the past payments made on this account credited back to me or applied to other water meters for this building, future water. Apparently, from my understanding, there was 2 water meters in there.
Yes.
There's 2 water lines because there's not enough water coming off one street to run the dishwasher. So I don't know what he's done to not run his dishwasher.
I don't know.
Is he just running the 1-inch line or is
That's
he
all
running?
he's running.
So he's not running the 3/4 inch line?
He is not.
And I guess this was done 2 years ago. The only problem, we give credit or refunds when people have a problem with water and we know it hasn't gone into the sewer system. He wants a credit because he supposedly did this 2 years ago, but nobody ever called the office and said, I only have one meter now, don't charge me the quarterly fee every quarter, so that's just not done, right, Molly? I mean, if he would've called then and said, I'm not doing this
He
anymore.
mentioned it verbally, he never brought it in writing until recently.
Okay, my question is, has there been a meter in there, in that
Yeah.
place? There has been a meter in that, and that water's been turned on?
I cannot answer that, Greg,
'Cause
so.
There's
if
two
he's got
meters.
the service in there, it don't matter, if you got the service in there and you don't use it, you're still gonna pay.
Right, you pay the fee.
That's
So it
right.
don't matter.
It's been a zero billing for water.
It don't matter, you still got the service in the
Right.
The
building.
EDUs, there's been no usage on it. He
We
said
don't know
EDUs.
that, right?
No, so he has
Correct.
to, he has to remove the line has to be disconnected from the building,
So he needs to call the office tells Pat, and Pat will go deal with it. But,
which will have to be dug up and taken apart at the curb.
Or disconnected at the curb or shut off, well, just,
Disconnected at the curb, the only way you
does
can do
the
it.
same shut off feed both?
No.
No,
So he's got two different shut offs?
that never had two, it only had one, and then when the Admirals got big and got going, they put a 1-inch line in off Market Street to feed the dishwasher, because the 3/4-inch line couldn't feed the whole place.
Gotcha.
They couldn't run the dishwasher and run everything at the same time. So they added this 1-inch line, so he must have everything tapped off 1 inch now and done away with 3/4, which is,
So
it's
then-
not hard to figure out, you just go down and look.
right, and then the meter comes off, and then they're officially, Molly knows there's only one meter. So we,
So there'll be no refunds, correct?
So motion to deny.
Motion to deny?
But it has to be disconnected at the street, because he cannot obviously use it at any given time, so that's still a service.
at the street?
It is shut off the street, yes, but it still has to be disconnected from the water shut off. You cannot have a service.
So you can't have the service, because the service is still a service charge.
right, and he has to come in and tell Molly to officially disconnect it.
He's already spoke to Pat. He's
So
already met with Pat, spoke to him about having it all done.
Okay, so, you know, the motion, I'll make a motion to deny that, but then he's gonna deal with his problem separately. But my motion is to deny payment of the fee.
Second?
Refund the fee.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion carried. Mr. Sweet?
I talked to you at the last meeting about, the gentleman from Municipal Solutions that I had talked to about doing a rate study. And I have a proposal here, trying to get the ones with the right names here, that I got from them to do a rate study. And this is all because some people on the town board and some people on the village board have dealt with this situation with these rates I've dealt with it for 6 or 7 years. And it always seems to be a problem. It's definitely been a problem. I think Molly will agree with that. I think that your attorney will agree that we've always had questions. And I don't mean to say it's been a fight or anything. It's just been that the two parties have always felt differently and not agreed with the end result. We have no choice. The town has no choice. What you all say, we have no opinion of. We can't change that decision that you make as far as rates. So this is the firm that's been in business for the 30 years that I've known of, that the village does business with and the town does business with, Municipal Solutions. I'm not sure if you've heard of Jeff Smith.
Yeah, I know Jeff.
And this is what he does for a living. He's an expert. And I think his price is what, between $8,000 and $10,000, is that what it was?
Yep.
Do you have an extra one?
And my proposal is to hire them and to split it with the town.
Do you have an extra copy?
I can't hear you.
Copy? Oh, thanks, I got one from her.
So, and I'm not looking for a decision tonight, I just wanted to take a look at it, read it. If you have any questions, call me. And we can do a conference call with this Jeff Smith. A lot of possibilities depending on what your thoughts are.
Because of the rates that are coming out, the new rates, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, understand.
Well, the new rates are in place for January 1, this doesn't impact them. Are you giving this to, what is it, Theresa, Town of Clayton and Orleans to read?
I just started with just us right now. I want to go one at a time and see what the best way to do it is.
But with the IMA agreements, don't we need their input on some of that, and also some of the change that needs to be done? You need approval, I believe, from DEC, so we're just,
And I'm not proposing that. I'm proposing that we sit down and try to talk about this and talk with this guy who's very knowledgeable about it, to even see if we should go further with it. I understand your discussion about, the IMAs and where we stand there, but we've all agreed those IMAs are not very good and very old and vague.
right, but to make any, I understand what you want to do, us to sit and talk, but to make any changes, you have to have their input and approval.
Whose approval?
The town of Clayton, or whoever else is.
I don't know that. I haven't had a lawyer tell me that, so I'm not
It's
sure.
in there.
I'm
They all
just
have to,
proposing this part of it.
they all have to participate.
The big issue is the rates are taking major hikes.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to. Correct? And you want a study done to make sure if it's fair to everybody, correct?
But what went into the Excel spreadsheet to get where we are was agreed on by everybody in the beginning, when we started all this.
Agreed on by all the people that are
All the
buying.
parties, yes, the IMA agreement.
One of
That
one of
was
the
done
problems
with
is a lot of the
engineers.
everybody's changed.
Excuse me?
One of the questions there is a lot of the everybody's have changed as far as the two boards.
What does that have to do with it? Who's on the board shouldn't really have anything to do on how the rates are figured out with an Excel
Who's on the
spreadsheet.
board- Who's on the board now may be requesting to do this. Our board is requesting to do this.
Okay?
Our board didn't request this in the past. It was a different board.
That's their choice, correct?
You just said, what is the difference?
It's the village's choice for billing, it's not, the town
Yes.
can give opinions, but the village sets this, correct? Am I correct?
Yes, and
All right,
it's,
I'm just stating
As I
the
said,
fact that,
The village controls it. There's no question.
right, but the
I said that in
IMA,
the beginning.
okay.
the Excel spreadsheet that was put together to make all this happen, was done with the village engineers, the town engineers, and now it's wrong?
When was that done?
Years ago, when they first started that, and Bank was, I know Thomas and I have
I'm not
talked
saying
about
it's
it.
wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong. This guy may come and we may spend the money to do this, and it could be exactly what we're doing. I'm not saying it's wrong. I just like to have an expert go through it, because the town board and the village board has had our own experts. Nothing against the firms, and it was done a long time ago when things had changed. We had an audit from the comptroller's office, and they told us our IMAs were outdated, and Sandy's been on a committee for 3 years working on it,
Updating the IMA agreement?
updating IMAs and ordinances.
Ordinances, not IMAs, ordinances.
Okay, because nobody came to me to say, let's sit down and change the IMA agreement. And you have to have all of the other, to change anything that we do, if you and anybody that has an IMA agreement, most of them go automatically renew themselves for 3 years. One of them is a 25-year IMA agreement. And then you also have approval that there's only so much you can change in these things without DEC approval, and maybe somebody else with an alphabet, I don't remember who. But it's not just something that we can sit here tomorrow and say, yes, we're doing this. Part of the problem we had as a village was I don't like to call it lost water anymore, because there's two categories, lost water and unmetered water. So the villages, that problem that we talked about earlier, we addressed that for this billing year, which is where you got your rates for January. And then the village is putting, anywhere that a village building or property has a bathroom or uses water, we are putting a meter on it, and we've already started. So we will be able to have the best count of, actual water metered than we've had in years. But, if you want to pay for a study, that's fine. But you still, even if you find you don't like certain things, there's a process that has to go through, and it's not just us.
who's to say that the other townships, which I have talked to, wouldn't be interested in doing this? They're
Okay, that's what I'm
participating.
asking.
I just don't, I can't say, yes, they will.
Okay, well,
Okay.
if, that's more
I mean, you wanna-
discussion.
You wanna stop it right now and not, we won't go any further, or how's the board feel? I'm not asking for a decision tonight either, I'm just asking to look into this.
I need to read through it all first.
I'd like to see the rates. We got new rates coming in January.
For the
Not for
town.
the village, it's all
For
the
the
town.
town, okay, there you go.
Yeah, Molly
Didn't know
has-
anything about
I
that.
have all them, I have them all
It's all new to
in
us,
a file.
so we have to,
The village.
we
rate
have to
went
look
up
at
too.
that too, we haven't seen it, nothing.
The village rates went up?
No.
No.
Let me just give just a quick background, and ultimately it just gets back us from the same page. So the village has the plant, you produce water, village residents use the water. You have a right under village law if you wish to sell to outside users. The village did that years and years ago, and intermunicipal cooperation is encouraged by New York State. You sell water to the town of Alexandria in 5 different districts. And I forget the names of all those districts, but 5 different water districts that are located in the town of Alexandria. And the town of Alexandria also partners with other towns. One of its water districts, it also hooks into the town of Orleans and the town of Clayton. So in that district, village water goes to Alexandria, then Orleans and Clayton. And in the town of Alexandria, it also partners with another town, town of Theresa, for a handful of residents. So the water goes from the village, town of Alexandria in that particular district to Theresa. That arrangement is just a contract for each one of them. And those contracts are referred to as intermunicipal agreements. You'll hear it a lot of times as IMAs. So basically what we have is we've got intermunicipal agreements, IMAs, 5 of them with the town of Alexandria, 1 with the village at each of those 5 districts, and then to the extent those districts include Theresa, Theresa's a partner. To the extent it involves Orleans, Orleans and Clayton are similarly a partner with it. So you've got that. Now with it, under the village law, you're authorized to sell, and you're authorized to sell at whatever rates are appropriate, and usually that's what we call a cost-plus arrangement. So years and years ago, long before my time, the village has a provision, I think it's Chapter 145, that addresses your water rates, and with it, it's a cost-plus formula in there. You as a village board, you figure out what the water is, you get your experts, typically your engineers, to work with you to figure out what it costs for the water, and you might have the water cost being treatment, and then also storage, and then also distribution. Those 3 components are involved with it. That's where your experts come in to tell you what it costs. Now, when you, under your Chapter 145, then what you also do is you also set the rate for what you're going to be charging the town of Alexandria for each of those districts. And you've got a right to do that, and it's in your code, but it's also contractual. And the contract specifies how you're going to calculate those rates to be used. Now, what happened then also was a few years ago, still before my time, the attorney for Alexandria and the attorney for the village recognized that those intermunicipal agreements were old, they were a little bit out of date, and they went through a lengthy process to update those IMAs. They were updated, and unfortunately, and I say this unfortunately way too often, New York State doesn't make anything easy. New York State changed a rule several years ago that said, well, wait a minute, when you do this, one of the regulations is you've got to have what they know as a water withdrawal permit. And that's through the state DEC, and our engineers have been working on that forever with the DEC, so the DEC will give us that new permit. One of the things DEC says is, well, they want to see all those IMAs. They want to see all that information. And so you've been working to get all that together. And now where you are is this. Yep, you have under 145 of the code the information on rates, your contracts with the town of Alexandria, Orleans, and Clayton, and Theresa. It addresses that rate structure. There's a schedule in there with the IMAs. Now, you certainly do, as a municipal board, have the ability to look at it from time to time and you're supposed to, at least annually, to figure out what those rates are. You figure out the rates, what it costs you, and then the extra that you charge the towns. So you can make adjustments, and certainly Supervisor Sweet's correct that, you can do that, and there's different ways of getting there with different experts and stuff. Yeah, I know Municipal Solutions. Yep, I've worked with Jeff Smith on a lot of different matters. I don't know the better or worse than any of the engineers I've seen. I mean, the town's engineers are excellent, so are the village engineers, but the long and short of it is you always have a right to take the time to look at your agreements and update them as you see fit. The only thing that happened here that was a little bit different was when we're trying to get that water withdrawal permit from the DEC. I've got so many different twists and turns. I know I had encouraged that we not look to update the IMAs again, because if we do, the DEC's going to say, wait a minute, hold everything. We want to get everything else again. So the goal kind of was to say, look, let's get that permit from the DEC, and then once you've got that in hand, say, okay, if you think there are changes that can be made and should be made, that's fine. You can do it at that point. But now with this topic, as far as your rates, yeah, you can take a look at your rates anytime you want to figure out what makes sense. You're going to try to be as accurate as you can anyway, for village residents and for towns. And what this intermunicipal cooperation deals with is everybody is family and friends. I mean, they're your neighbors and your family that live just outside a municipal boundary. So you still work together like you have been. And you can do all that, but go careful with it, because there's a lot of twists and turns with the process, especially when the state's keeping an eye on you.
Where are we with getting the water withdrawal permit stuff done, finally?
We're close. Actually, the remaining item, and Pat's helping with it, he's looking through the historic production for the plant, so they can set the actual permit levels, so what you can withdraw from the St. Lawrence.
Okay, and the last time we updated the IMA agreements was 2019.
I believe so, yeah.
So is that the withdrawal permits that have been done for years, that we show how much we pump, how much we send to the town, how much we send to Orange? Is that the same permit that's been done every year?
Well, so at one time,
I used to do
each district would have their own permit,
Right.
but it actually makes sense. They went back
I had to
to
do
the
everybody.
production.
I had to do the towns, and I had to do Orleans also.
Yep, so they went back to the plants, so whoever's producing the water has to have the permit now.
Right, I did that. That's been done for years.
Right, but we don't have an official water withdrawal permit.
Yeah, they changed
don't
the
have
rules
one
now,
now. We
so
haven't had
everything's got to go through
No.
the village now.
So,
We're still waiting.
we need to get the water withdrawal permit done. Then, we updated the IMA agreements in 2019. The IMA agreements say they can be reviewed every 3 years. So that's maybe next year, maybe after the first of the year, we start looking into them. But, right now we got to finish what we're doing, and this I'm not, I'd like to finish reading this.
So, for your background, I'm sure, Greg, you understood everything, because you've
Exactly.
been in
That was
this
exactly
part.
where I was at.
So here's what happened, late summer, early fall, when the village initially proposed their, thing. So each, from the past, they take everything that has to do with water out of the budget, and it is accounted for in either storage, treatment, or distribution. So that's this spreadsheet that Judy's talking about. Not each district, for example, Redwood doesn't pay for storage because they have their own water tank.
Correct.
So some districts share in the cost of all three departments, all three categories, some districts don't. That's why there's different rates. Well, when we sat here discussing and we added up, someone asked the question of what was the total amount of water withdrawn from the river? And we'll just go with round numbers. It was like 96 million gallons. But all we were accounting for was like 68 million. That's how much had actually been billed. So at all of the districts, whether it be Redwood or Otter Street, there is a main master meter, as you know, and the village takes their readings, and that's what the town or the other districts get billed for, is the master meter reading. What the village was taking as their usage number was what they were billing people within the village. So there was about 30 million gallons that was unaccounted for, whether it be lost water or unmetered water, either way. But that cost was being shifted to the town districts, to the outside user districts, when it was not their cost. That's why you'll see there was the initial numbers that were, rates that were initially proposed, and when this was discovered, the village agreed for 1 year, all the outside users had to sign a statement saying that we agreed. We should be using the total number, and the village should be paying for their unmetered, lost water, whatever, because all of the outside users, they're at the master meter, and all of our lost water, they have to pay for, those districts pay for, and it's not fair for the outside users to pay for this. And I think that's why Supervisor Sweet is asking that
That's where I was
we
going.
need to look over this sheet, because we found one major problem, and are there others? And I know there was a, you know, survey, whatever, not a survey, but a what? What'd you say? You know, there was a project, and they put this together, and a lot of work was done on it, but it doesn't mean it was 100%, and as Mr. Burrows said, we should be looking at this every year. And that's all Supervisor Sweet is requesting, is that can we have a new, fresh set of eyes who's very well versed in this, look at this.
I have a question. Any idea how many years the village has been overcharging the town for roughly 30
I don't like that.
million gallons?
It depends who you talk to, because depending who you talk to, a dank or an engineer, they agree that part of that should be sent on to the town. So this is a discussion for another day where we sit and have a meeting
I was just
and
asking a
talk.
question about how
No, I
long this has been
understand.
going on, because I can recall about 8 years. As
That's,
Sandy said, going back to the
mhm.
2016, I think.
And that's why they've been asking. And because the majority of the outside districts are in the town of Alexandria, you know, he's trying to spearhead it to say, can we please come to the table and talk? Can we please come to the table and talk? Can we please review this? If you don't want to listen to them, let's get an outsider. You know, we can use Dank, that's who's been, you know, doing this. Dank and him can get together. You know, I think our question should be, and Judy kind of alluded to it, is who's going to pay for this?
Right.
You know?
Good point.
And
I agree. You know, back when we had our meeting, August and then whenever, that we should sit and talk, and we agreed to change that number for the 1 year just so we could get it done and move forward. We adjusted it and did not bill for any unmetered water. So, you know, I get where you're going. I agree we should sit and talk, but I think if you're going to do this, I believe you still need the agreement of the other towns or other districts, so why not include them from the beginning? And this needs more discussion than let's do this. You know, you said you didn't need this today. Well, maybe we should schedule workshops where, you know.
He's available for conference call. There's all kinds of ways that we could deal with it. I want to ask Greg a question. Dealing with water, if they're losing 30 million gallons or 29 million gallons of water, and all of our readings that show that they're losing that water are from our master meetings at the beginning of our districts, okay? How is any of that water being lost in the town lines?
So,
After the
how
master
I had
meeting?
to do it, and it's the same permit that he's going after for the DEC permit or whatever new permit it is. We always had to do a yearly sheet for the DEC. withdraw our meter readings, town meter readings,
We still do it.
and Orlean meter readings. That was your permit for your, that was your thing that they had, and we had to ship that into the state for them to monitor on what we were losing. And that's when we would come, I would come to Molly, and we would do a run sheet on loss. And, been just a couple of years since I've been there. But I think it was a certain percentage you could lose for fire hydrants. I believe
I have the percentage
I
sheet
think
over
it's
there.
at 10% or
10, and there's 6% for something else.
10 or 14% you can lose for fire hydrants, because if you have a major fire, you're gonna burn over 1 million gallons, just one fire. So, there's all kinds of figures for that, so what we would end up doing is then we'd end up taking the total meters, our meters we read, not the meter that's at the plant that we go by. The plant tells you what we brought in. That don't tell you what we lost out in the system. So we have to take all the official readings that we took, read those, subtracted it from our total to see what we lost, and we'd subtract your total from what we were, to get down to whatever, what, I don't know, years ago, what the losses were. And so then that's when we went into different meter programs, because meters weren't reading right. And so we did a couple meters. Meters are only good for 10 years.
It's when we.
That's it.
That's when we.
They're done
about
after
the
10
fire
years.
hydrants and the water
10 years
meters.
of water meter.
And we started putting meters.
I'd love to have a
on fire
10-year-old meter in my house,
hydrants.
because they slow down. And any school you ever go to, that you think your meter's gonna go faster because it wears out? Yeah.
Yeah.
It slows down. It's unreal what it does, but it goes backwards of what you think it would do. And we got taught that quite a bit in school, that it goes backwards. And it's hard to believe it would, because you think they wear out, once the paddles wear out in them, water's gonna go back. It don't work that way. So, you figure all those numbers. And this would be something I'd love to be involved in, because it's something up my alley, but maybe.
Well, then we should get a workshop, like you said, and
Maybe we'll
discuss
do
it
it, you know,
between all
do a
the
shop
towns and all
and
the
figure
people
out,
using water.
and figure out what we really are. I'd love to see what we're losing right now. I don't know, since I've been gone for 6 years, so. But I don't know what the loss is, I don't know how many meters we got working, how many meters we don't have working.
Well, the village is in the process of changing out meters. And that'll be done totally once we get the official go-ahead on our water project. That'll be totally done, and a new water meters.
But what I see happening right now, and I'm not gonna go down in your department, but when you change a meter now, you change 5 or 6 meters this year, and you change 5 or 6 meters next year, and you change 5, you think you're gaining on it, you're not gaining, you gotta do a whole swap.
Right, that's.
You have to do the whole thing, because you're gonna have a 10-year-old, you're gonna have a 5-year-old meter, 5 years old, when you've got another one in the next house. So that's a bad one. And we did the same thing, and then finally the village we bought Black Rivers, because Black River bought water meters.
Right, but.
And they sold the whole village, so we did the whole village at once. And that's when we started coming back and you weren't here, Molly, it was before you, but that's when we got back to the real numbers of what
Right, and
what
as
we
soon
were
as-
using and what we were.
As soon as we get approval, 1 or 2 pieces of paper we're waiting for the grant money we got and the loan.
Yep, and until you can get that true count
they'll
for
all
real meters,
be-
you're not gonna get it.
Right, they'll all be replaced at the same time.
You won't get it until you get the real
Have a
thing.
date for a workshop.
Well, let's do that.
Good deal.
Brent, do you wanna contact the other towns and set up a time to do a workshop with everybody, and? Sure. Do you wanna contact them first, and then or do you want us to set a date for it?
Ask them for dates and times.
What's that? Yeah, well, you wanna ask them, and we'll try to.
Instead of asking, pick 2 times, give them 2 times.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're gonna go back and forth, and next month we're
2
gonna
or
have
3.
not accomplished a thing. So pick
You
out
want-
2 or 3 dates.
You wanna do it like after the
After
first sometime?
I'm
Christmas
asking.
Eve, New Year's Eve, and other days are good days.
Christmas Eve, and New Year's Eve?
Nothing will go better over a beer.
Mr. Mayor, I have one, I'm sorry, are you done, Brett? Oh, okay. I have, a budget transfer, please, a budget revision, for board approval. I'd like to make a budget transfer to move approved ARPA funds, which was the money from COVID, our second set of funds that we got, to the sewer fund per the approved budget to cover wastewater treatment expenses. So we had some major repairs to the wastewater treatment plant to the tune of $98,000. We received ARPA funds of $105,000. We'd like to move that over to cover all those costs. We just need a motion from the board to do that.
I'll make that motion.
Is that a coverable expense?
Yes. So when we got the ARPA funds, you couldn't use it for a million things. You could use it for wastewater, and you could use it for, couldn't use it for wages, you couldn't use it for, there was there was another water project that we could, but this will help to offset that totally. So it would help it.
Did you make
I
a
made the
motion?
motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Brent, do you wanna, getting back to this, do you wanna set a couple dates, like in January?
You guys give me a couple
Is
to talk to who?
I don't know,
Ask
you,
Are we
the
talking
oth-
to the other towns, are we
Who
talking to
has-
Municipal Solutions? Are we
Let's start
talking to
with
each other?
start with
Just
just us in the town, us first, and the other towns. Invite the other towns. If they don't come, that's fine, but you bring a couple people from your board.
Yeah. You can help me, so we'll come up with a couple dates then.
Yeah.
What
dates do you
we
want?
have?
I'm open, anything after the first.
You got
What's a good
day
day
of the
for?
week that's better for you, Greg?
Anything after 5 o'clock?
Oh, after 5 o'clock.
Some of us work.
Yeah, I know.
Go ahead, pick a day, I'll be there. You pick a day, I'll be there.
Pick some days, Mike.
Oh, I don't know. Why don't we do January 1st?
No.
You wanna pick like a Monday or like in the morning on a Tuesday, because we have the board meeting at night? Is that more convenient, or do you wanna do a different day?
Doesn't matter to me.
Well, let's do like the 10th and the 17th. Use them to start with, that's a Wednesday. Does that work?
I'm fine.
Does that work with you? 10th and the 17th? It's on a Wednesday?
And so keep in mind then, if you have a quorum of any of those boards,
Two board
then
members.
it will be subject to the open meetings law, so you've got to advertise and keep it open. I'm not sure if your intent is to be an open meeting or whether it be a closed meeting, because certainly for contract issues, if you do not have a quorum, you're able to meet and make progress. It doesn't bind any board, but just up to you.
Do you need to advertise, what, a week, 10 days?
So, yeah, if you're going to have a formal meeting where at least a quorum is gonna be present, whether you decide anything or not, then it's open meetings law, you're typically looking at a 10-day window.
I would say probably be a quorum, wouldn't you say? There's gonna be,
We'll
for us,
advertise
there
it.
will be.
We'll advertise it.
So what we need to do, Brett, is get an answer from them by no later than the end of December, so that if we decide, like, the 7th or the 10th, we gotta have it advertised, because I'm sure that you're gonna have 2 or 3.
If we do a work session that's open to the public, is the same time frame?
Yeah, it is. Now, what you could do, a slight variation, because I know it's expensive for the notice and timing can be difficult. If you have a meeting, let's say, near the end of the month, if before then, if you get the information about others that might be available, let's say if your meeting makes up December 28th for a year-end meeting, you could, at the year-end meeting, you could adjourn to January 10th or January 17th. And by simply adjourning the meeting, you don't have to actually provide a formal notice. It would be a public meeting being continued. The others could attend, the public can still attend, the media can attend, everything, but you can avoid the notification process.
So if we meet,
But we don't have a year-end meeting, do we, Molly? No.
Oh, you don't, okay, well, a lot of communities will do it by the end of the year.
Yeah.
But so again, the whole key is this, if you have a normal meeting, you're typically looking at a real quick 10 days notice, but there's an abbreviated portion where you can call a meeting on 3 days notice, but you still have to notify the media, notify the public on your website, et cetera, so that people have the ability to learn of it so they can attend if they wish, then the meeting's open to the public. But there's a different mechanism for shortening that, and that would be if you have any other meeting, you can, at the end of that meeting, you can adjourn to another date and time, and by simply making that adjournment, then what you've done is you continue the meeting on, you can conduct business at that meeting, the public can attend, and the press can attend, et cetera. It's open to the public, but you avoid some of those notification processes. And it's just a cheaper process and easier.
Okay.
Can we do it if we have two dates picked? Could we adjourn today, or it has to be just one date?
Well, you could adjourn to the 10th, and you really can't adjourn to the 10th and the 17th. You
Right.
adjourn to one date or the other. So you adjourn to the 10th, and if then something happens, if it falls apart, you don't even need a quorum. You could just postpone it to the 17th at that point.
You want to do it that way?
No, we have a meeting January 9th. So why don't you ask if any of them would like to meet either the 17th, 18th, or 19th, give them a 3-day window. Would they like Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday? Ask them what time of day they'd like to meet, and then when we have our meeting on the 9th, we will adjourn to whatever one of those days for a working session, because that'll give us our 10-day grace. And then we will have to go through the advertising and all that.
Meeting on the 9th.
Our board meeting is January
Oh,
9th.
yours. Okay, because ours is Sunday, okay. Yeah.
So just.
Am I understanding that right, that we can
Yep.
adjourn
Yep.
Yes.
to have
Yep.
the meeting?
Yes.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I'm both, you know, the town clerk and village clerk are familiar with those rules, but yeah, what you could do, if you have your normal meeting on the 9th, you can conduct all your business, and then at the end of that meeting, if you've got something else for the 17th, 18th, and 19th, you could adjourn to one of those dates. You just adjourn to the date, place, and time, and you just continue whatever business you wish to discuss at that adjourned meeting.
Okay, that works. That work for you?
Yep.
Good. Done. We don't need a motion or anything for that? Nope. Okay. One other, well, I'll get you, Judy, for one other thing that, did you want to talk about?
No, I'm good.
You're good? We've been
Did I miss
briefly,
something?
no, there's something that's not on here, I didn't put on there. It's kind of new business, it kind of isn't. We're checking into a different avenue for the golf course, of ways to take care of it. It's a kind of a loss thing, that's a lot of complaints about the state or the quality of it and stuff, so just so everybody knows, we're checking into a couple of possibilities of, I guess, maybe putting it out for bid, leasing it, upgrade stuff, or just so everybody knows that it's kind of new business, but we're checking into it to try to make it at least break even.
So, what sort of laws or guidelines do we need to follow if we wanted to put it out to bid or put it out to lease to someone else? What do we have to do?
I really don't know off the top of my head, but I'm assuming that we've got employees, and we might have collective bargaining agreements that we have to look at and see what impact, if any, that's going to have. The other thing to typically look at is when the village became the owner of the property, there may very well have been some deed restrictions. That I don't know. And you'd want to see if there's restrictions on the uses and how it can be used and by whom, things like that. But other than that, it's a matter of contract. As long as you don't have contracts that you're violating with village employees of some fashion, then what generally happens is responsible for the maintaining, care, and use of village property, and you'd have the ability to solicit proposals and to enter into a lease type arrangement if you wish. It's contractual. There's a twist with it, but you know, to shoot in the hip right now. I've not seen any paperwork on the golf course, so.
If we wanted to put a referendum onto the ballot in November, just to ask the taxpayers, what do you guys want to do? Because we're losing 60,000+, between 40 and 60,000 a year. I know a lot. I can give you a handful of them that are going to fight tooth and nail. We want it to stay a village-run, village everything. But I also have another handful that are going to say, absolutely not. I don't golf. I don't think we should be supplementing it. I would love for it to be on there in some form. What does that take?
In a perfect world, that's a great solution. Let the voters decide. This is New York State. Article 8, Section 1 of the New York State Constitution says, in a nutshell, that you, as the governing body of the village, you can't use village money for certain purposes that aren't authorized by the state constitution. And the problem is a lot of municipalities have tried to do just that, put out these referendums. The example was years ago, the town of Cape Vincent was looking to do something like that when the wind power was coming into play. Would have made perfect sense. The state said, no, you're not allowed to put that in a referendum because ballots can only have certain things on them, like who's running for office, et cetera. And then there you'll have like permissive referendums on bonding and certain contracts and stuff, but you can't put a proposition like that on from a general standpoint. It's prohibited by New York State.
So could you put a proposition on, do you want to sell it or keep it?
It's still the same thing. I mean, ultimately what happens is...
So we can decide to sell it?
Okay, what happens is, you as the governing board, you're responsible for the care and the maintenance of the village property. If you have real property that's unused, unwanted, unneeded, and it's not devoted to a public purpose, then yeah, you can sell it on commercially reasonable terms. The problem you got is that real property is used for a public purpose right now, so I think that right off the bat, you wouldn't be able to sell it. I suspect that's the case. But, you know, again, I'm shooting from the hip because I haven't looked at any paperwork on this, so I want to be careful.
I do know you would have to start with the New York State Department of Recreation. New York, depending, if you wanted to make the golf course go away, depending what you were going to do with the land afterwards, we're required to have a certain amount of recreational space. Part of the golf course is in the village, part of it's in the town. So they are the place you'd have to start, because I've already called. We had this conversation a year or so ago about golf course, and that's where we'd have to start. Because they have to give you permission, they would want to know, and they probably would do a study to determine how much recreational space you would have left afterwards. If I use the example, well, what if we wanted to sell it and build housing, which the village needs too? Their question was, how much recreational space would you have left? And I didn't know that at that point because we didn't go that far.
Okay. We're looking at all options.
We're looking at some options. We're just trying to...
What you're thinking, guys.
You know, things to... Even if we lost less money, but we just gotta do something with it.
I would love to keep it and just break even.
That's
I
what
would
we're
just like
trying.
to break even.
That's what we're thinking about, but, you know. Yes,
When,
Gary.
when I was on the board in the past, I brought up renting it out to Doug Norton. I think it's a great idea. He rents state courses. I'm glad you're looking into other things.
That's what we're looking at. There's nothing set in stone, it's just putting feelers out there and some different ideas and just trying to see if we can make a go of it, that's all. Nobody wants to sell a golf course, we
Right.
just wanna make it better for the people using it and make it feasible. That's our main goal. You know, instead of losing 60, if we lost 20, we'd be doing real well. So that's what we're looking at, if we can just do something with it and make it a better golf course.
Do those other golf courses sell food and liquor?
They do in Morristown, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They do
See,
in,
that would be,
One does and one doesn't.
that would be a big plus to lease it out, because it's been asked in the past, people want to lease it out and they want to go for a liquor license. And it's never happened, and Molly and I checked, there is nothing that we could find in writing that says that the golf course cannot sell liquor.
So, but we're just putting, you know, feelers out there and just kicking it around.
I was gonna
You know.
say, town of Louisville owns Messina Golf Course, and they have, so.
Gregor, wanna speak on your stuff there? The grant you got?
Yes, you didn't bring up the new
I haven't
bill.
brought it up yet, I was waiting for the end.
Greg,
Oh,
you
that's
wanna-
what you meant, okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Do you
Yeah,
want-
I just wanted to, make the announcement. Today, funding announcements were made by Environmental Facilities Corporation. It was through the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, and the village was awarded almost $4.2 million for the wastewater plant upgrades.
Can you kind of bring everybody up what that would include, what improvements is included kind of in that for me?
Yeah.
I'm not exact detail, but just a rough.
Yeah, roughly, it's, really doing over the entire facility. I know it was mentioned tonight that you just put in, I don't know what the equipment was, but $100,000 worth of equipment. That's the common condition of most of the parts and pieces of the wastewater plant right now. So we did a study, and I can get that to, both Mike and Greg. We did a complete study, which was required for the funding, looking at the wastewater facility specifically, and, applied for the WIA funding, and that's what was awarded. It was the max awarded amount for that project that they could. And we're also looking at USDA rural development funding as another funding source. So this is the first grant funds and
Towards wastewater.
towards the wastewater project. But we're also looking at some other programs.
Does that have a matching or a percentage of what we have to spend?
Yeah, so this is approximately 25% of the project, overall project cost. And that's, like I said, the max that program can provide is
This
25%.
program.
That's 25% of what you think it's gonna cost. So you're looking
Yeah,
at like
that's
$20 million
based on
in
the current-
upgrades,
current
am I right?
It's around 16.5 right now, but as you
So
know,
around 20 million, so we're,
as you know,
every
with the
day,
water
yeah.
project, we had to increase, which the village did the amended bond resolution for. This was a 2021 budget. We have done some inflation for it, but, it probably before it gets close to being in the design phase, you'd have to do another budget update.
What kind of plant are you looking at?
SBR.
Okay.
So, you
So wait, this,
said, you didn't answer my question the way I intended it.
Okay.
You said that this would cover 25% of what you're expecting the project that you designed to cost.
Correct.
Can we just do a partial project and use that much money? Are we expected to match the 4.2 million, or can we use just that much and go just so far?
Yeah, so you could do a less, I think this is what you're asking, Sandy. You could do a lesser project. They would just decrease that grant amount so that it was 25% of that amount, the final construction amount.
is there a required match on the part of the village to this,
So this is 25%
of the total?
max of the total.
Right, but I think she's asking,
No,
or.
he answered
He
it.
answered, okay. So if we got other money and we got to 16 and it's gonna cost us 18, obviously we'd have to put up the other 2 million, but there's no required match at this point from anyone. Like
No,
we did with
it's
some of
a
the other,
25%
of the total,
max of the total.
max.
That's a,
And I've got a copy, I don't know, did everyone get a copy of the?
so what other grants did you apply for? I mean, 'cause
Yep, USDA rural development is the other major utility
I think I got it.
program. Do you have a copy, Mike?
I'm not sure, I think I did.
This just came out this afternoon too, so it's,
If the grant is there, he's applying.
Are we putting in,
Magic
are we gonna put this in the same place?
currently it's proposed the same site.
So if I read this, we're supposed to sign an agree to use this by the 19th?
So they are essentially, and I'll confirm for you, Mike, but I don't think there's any commitment by signing that with the funding. It's just essentially say that you intend to proceed with the project. But I don't think it commits you to anything because there's a whole process before they actually,
I mean, there's a lot of work have you designed it?
no. it has
Nothing's
not
been done.
designed. There's conceptual design, but nothing, the actual design has not commenced.
Let me ask you a question then. Rather than building a new waste treatment plant, have you thought about taking it up the road?
Yeah, we actually looked at that, and I
Is it
couldn't
feasible?
quote you off the top of my head, but if you wanna have a work session, we could bring all the data. But we looked at what it would look like if you had to pump, are you saying Orleans?
Yes.
Yeah, we did look at that.
And if you have a ballpark?
And it was 2021 when we ran through the numbers, so it'd be easier if I brought the data and we could sit down and run
Okay.
through it.
I'm just curious, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're,
It was more than it would cost to do,
Yeah, it was more than redoing the plan, because essentially you're gonna have to build a facility at that location to handle the village's capacity.
the plant they got there won't handle,
It's not sized for, so the village system is sized for 750,000 gallons a day, average flow.
correct? Okay.
And you sometimes, based on the flows, and Greg, you probably recall this, it goes up to 3
Couple
million plus.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of rainstorm.
I was gonna say, is that when you have rainstorms and that,
It's changed a little bit since we did a lot of.
Because the storm sewers go into the sewer.
We did a lot of
You
work.
have a lot of sump pumps too,
yeah.
that's direct discharge. So there's a lot of flow when you have.
I'd just be interested to look at it.
Yeah,
You know,
The joint sewer plant, our joint sewer plant at Price Chopper is a modular plant that we just added a module on for Clayton, that there's more modules that can be added on.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, that's what we looked at,
So
adding,
it is
what it would take to
capable-
add more on.
It is capable of having
I have nothing but trouble with them batch plants. Stay.
Right, with.
Is that what the,
Oh, it's awful.
what's a batch plant?
That's some open.
Oh, it smells terrible up there. But I better have to smell it
But
here than here now.
I'm sure
Yeah,
part
but you
of
don't have it right
the
here.
Oh, I
cost
don't-
in 19 was going all the way out there, and the town, hopefully in the spring, is gonna be doing their Route 12 sewer project number 2, that's gonna bring it all the way down to Otter Street. So, if we could attach in, you know, you're cutting off, if that was speculation, so I'd be very interested to sit in on that.
Yeah,
I just, you know, we need to check
Yeah,
all
definitely.
avenues, right?
no, we could definitely go through that with you. A lot of it was, even having the system up to the village limits, is making sure it has the capacity for that 2 to 3 million gallons a day when you have your high flows.
Yep, understand.
So that's a big part of it, but we can run through that, Mike, anytime.
All right. Well, get her together anytime, just give me a call. We can
Sounds
sit down
good.
and just, well, we can't have a quorum now.
That's right.
Well, the fact, we have to, because we all wanna be there.
Do it on the same
We
day.
can make meetings, we can make meetings.
We're allowed.
We can do whatever you want.
Thank you. Have we about covered everything again?
Public concern?
Any
Now we're
public
back to
concern?
the end.
Yes, Russ.
I'd like to expand a little bit on what Lee had mentioned. A week from tomorrow, we are going to open the can of worms that is short-term rentals. Whatever guidelines that we come up with and you decide to adopt all or part of them, it's imperative that you consider how we're going to enforce these. Some of the enforcement falls under zoning, some of it's gonna fall under code enforcement. And I'm asking you to begin the thought process now of, if we adapt whatever guidelines there are, the board's gonna need to start thinking about enforcement of those guidelines. And
Sure.
I ask you to think about that now, rather than when we get to the end and you say, okay, this is great, let's do this. Now, how do we enforce it? So maybe a little proactive thought on this.
I was just gonna say, do we wanna think about what guidance to give to them? Because I know the group that was appointed last year for the town spent hours and hours, and they really kind of put they wanted a lot of restrictions where, you know, there was gonna be inspections for the homeowners and this and that, and it was like, whoa, the board looked at it and said, who's gonna police this, and we really don't want that. So rather than them starting this project and having no guidance, going out there.
Also, I don't know that we have for real guidelines yet from the state of New York. I mean, you could do a whole list of guidelines, and then New York State comes in and says, these are now our rules. I mean, there's a lot of towns in New York State that have started and stopped because A, they can't afford what they wanted to do, Because you pretty much, depending how big your town or village is, you have to have a full-time code person and a register and an office and because if you look at other places, everything has to be registered. Everything gets a health inspection. They all get licensed. It's blah, 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 blah. It's a lot of work. And then if we set up our rules, the question is, and this is what a lot of others are asking themselves, okay, did we go too far too fast without having the correct direction from the state of New York?
And I know that's what the town has decided, that they're just gonna pump the brakes, because there is legislation
Yes, it's
forward right now, that's, it's coming, so how much time do we want them to waste? Not that it would be a waste of time, don't get me wrong,
That's a starting
but
point.
Yeah, and I think one of the issues, and we had touched upon this at one of the previous meetings, is yes, the state has something in the works. When's it gonna be done? It
Couple
could be
years.
next year, it could be years down the road. This is an issue that is not years down the road. This is an issue that's right now. And the question is, how far do we get into it?
Did you work with the county planning it out?
Well, yeah, Andy's working with us on this, yeah.
Because the county planning had talked to us and do it and said exactly what Andy just said about the short term. The state's talking about doing something right. Well, the state's real worried about one thing, and that's the 3% tax.
Right.
Yes. That's what the state's interested in. As far as the state setting regulations that we all have to enforce, it could be scary.
What's the difference if you rent your house by the night or if you rent it by the month? You tell me. You're renting it. If the people are in there a month, or if they're in there 2 weeks, they go away and come back for a week, what's the difference?
Yep.
There's rentals, there's gonna be rentals everywhere all the time, wherever you go. I mean, a lot of people don't agree with it, but it's there, I mean,
A lot of money.
people are making money out of it, they're still paying taxes, they're gonna pay more taxes, because that's what this is coming to. New York State's gonna figure out a short-term tax to help the motels and stuff, which I don't disagree with that a bit, but you can see it. The reason I know it, because it just happened in Texas where my cousin is. In Grapevine, Texas, they did the same thing that we're trying to do, and they shut it down. And it lasted for 2 months.
Great, they shut what down?
They shut down the short-term rentals.
Okay.
They won for 2 months, and then it went to court. Now, those people are winning big time, because they all sued for their 2 months that they got shut down. And now they're back open, so it's just one of those things where you're gonna wanna make sure you got your feet on the ground, and New York State's not involved in it, because it gets reversed so quick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I love to see you guys do the work on it, because short terms bother a lot of people. They're right in the neighborhoods and next door, you know, and you always you can get a good batch or a bad batch, we all get it,
It's
but
a double-edged sword.
it is.
Yeah.
But it's
There's nothing wrong with
just,
rentals, it's just what happens when they're there.
it's what happened. I think it's almost, the ordinances need to say, you need to control your rentals, you know, you can't sit there and have wild parties in between somebody else for the next thing, but what about them rentals that rent next to me and I have a wild party? They're gonna start coming to your house next.
Invite them.
They're always invited, but I'm just saying, that's where it's all going, because you see that fight, and it's a circle. It's a circle in the news all the time, and Grapevine, Texas was a really good example, just Tykes whole village. It went 2 blocks, a guy come right in and bought 2 blocks, started renting short-term rentals, and then he won.
Yeah. It's interesting.
And went away and it came back.
We've done some research already on it. Old Forge has gone through quite a process to get something that has been deemed legal guidelines.
Yep.
And I've got some experience in a town that I used to deal with where they have guidelines in place. They're not draconian, but they are, they're doable, and they've been in there for years. These guidelines have been there, and I think the issue is whatever you try to impose on people that are here now, they're going to fight tooth and nail.
Exactly.
Once you have guidelines in place, whatever they are, whether they're simple or difficult or whatever, people that are coming in after that are saying, these are the rules. If you don't want to abide by these rules, don't invest here.
I think it's all about the 3% bed tax. That's what the state's gonna say. You wanna be a short-term rental? Charge the bed tax like hotels do, and then everybody will be happy. and then to some degree, it'll work itself out for rules. I mean, we decide to do this, you know, you can't afford at this point in our budget a full-time code enforcement officer or what you'd need to do this. So it's something to be wary of. I'm not for it or against it, it's got to be done right in the right process.
Right, and again, whatever we ultimately come up with, we'll go through the process like we did with the zoning, where you can say, look, this makes sense, but maybe this doesn't, and you can fine tune it from that point, or you can just say, look, we're gonna let this run its course and with no oversight, that's an option too. You know, I don't see as a waste of time that we meet and put something together that may produce results that are amenable to everybody. It may not, but we won't know unless we try.
My only concern with, you know, everything being turned into short-term housing is we're losing the housing for people that actually need to live here in the village, and that's
And that's a very
becoming a
valid point.
concern.
It is, yeah, absolutely, and that's one of the concerns.
Nothing for rent for long term.
You know, you get outside landlords in that have no skin in the game, and that's, again, firsthand experience, where the place that I had a rental, I was 3 hours away. I didn't care about what happened in that town at all, as long as the place made money. I was a young punk then, too. Things have changed a little bit.
The one good thing, big if we would ever win the DRI or New York Forward, anybody that participates in that as a private stakeholder, if they have any of their buildings downtown, for example, if they want to turn a second and a third floor into apartments, they cannot be short-term rentals. That's mandated by them, because that funding is to be used for residential, and New York State considers short-term rentals such as point commercial. So that's a rule that they have set up to try to alleviate that and encourage that money to be used for housing.
Do they make it year-round rather than seasonal?
Yes, year-round rental. I think that was easy to sign with.
When are they gonna announce that funding?
We're not sure.
Yeah, they haven't,
Pick a
they
day.
haven't said anything yet.
You said rain.
Yeah. it was-
Isn't it usually the end of-
Month they would
Yeah,
make some
end of this
sort
month.
announcement.
Anybody else? Motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
On favor?
Aye.
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 Gonna make your meeting, Jim?
Is this the one we're extending?
This
one we adjourned.
Gregor needs this signed. Now, Gregor needs this signed.
Well, he's not, I gotta have that big payment.
Oh, never mind.
You gonna make it?
I'll make it fine.
What time do they have their meeting?
They start at 6:30, they'll probably go on at 10:30.
Yeah.
That's
This was supposed to be a short one, it was only 2 hours.
Can you put that straight, because it quit recording, because there wasn't enough memory on the
They're dealing with the island for that $40 million project.
I've seen some places where they.
All he does papers when you call.
What I wanted to ask you.
Well, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Good night.
Good night, thank you, Merry Christmas.
Good night.
I got a room called the new.
She'll take that paper, she has to take from it, she'll call you to come and sign.